Okay, great. As a caveat, my partner wasn't here today, and he was supposed to be doing the majority of the presentation, so that's my caveat. This is a classic example of employing existing technology in a new way to address a widespread problem. What's the problem? The problem is congestion. In high-density areas where there's a rapid influx of people, in small areas, cell phones lose their functionality. They can't make phone calls, they can't send text messages, and typically you have a difficult time accessing the internet if you can do that at all. Why do we care? In addition to some obvious safety concerns, above all else, it's stressful, it's frustrating, and it's time-consuming. For example, one of my close friends, Christian Lenneberg, who's one of the 150,000 people to attend Coachella, purchased walkie-talkies after a full day of not being able to find his friends. And you can't simply boost cell phone signals because that just adds to the congestion problem. So what's the solution? Mesh technologies have already been employed to facilitate security in events like the Academy Awards and the Super Bowl. Mesh technology nodes create a super mobile hotspots, essentially allowing you to have Wi-Fi access. Now, raise your hand if you have a smartphone, either an iPhone or a BlackBerry, pretty much everyone in the room. Now, raise your hand if you have the guilty pleasure of receiving Facebook notifications on your phone. A lot of you. Okay. Smartphones already come equipped with Wi-Fi capabilities, and there's something called VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, and allows cell phones to essentially use application systems to make phone calls. Other Wi-Fi applications to assist communication may include like Facebook instant messaging. Essentially, Firestorm Communication Systems teams up with local service providers to provide temporary hotspots by installing mesh nodes for high-density events, where we're a service. So to give you a reference point, roughly 4 nodes can service a high-density area. That's roughly the size of AT&T Park. Okay, so some of the target markets I pointed out of there. So who's the beneficiary and who's the client? I listed some type of the situations, festivals, concerts, sporting events, and so forth. So why does the client want this? You'll see as a growing trend, for example, in Coachella, which is the example that we'll come back to, they're advertising sustainability. I think event goers want to see more services provided to them. Also, insurance premiums could be reduced, and we want to team up with some of the 30 seconds. Okay, so the VoIP applications, so that they can facilitate some of the event goer communications. I see I'm running out of time. So some of the other considerations that we have is we really want to get into the first responder market, where we provide hotspots in crises where infrastructure has been compromised, namely fires, earthquakes, and so forth. And that's really where I see this company advancing.
So do you guys offer an app, or is it seamless with the phone?
So I kind of, if I can take that question and anticipate a problem, is like, why, if I'm trying to get a hold of someone else at a concert when I can't send text messages, I mean, what application am I going to use? And we kind of threw around the idea of getting a hold of other VoIP applications to sort of sponsor events with us. Because if you go on your app store on your phone and you just search VoIP, there's 97 applications that come up just on the free list. And so we were hoping to get, but like this is the idea and it's sort of nascent stages, but we were hoping to get one of these applications to sort of sponsor events so we have some sort of presence. Additionally, we were hoping to sort of create like a sort of a market demand, in the sense that if we have a presence here, people are going to be wondering why they don't have these services and events to come, when it has been the case before.
So if the network traffic, you're already at an event where the network traffic is congested, how do you download this app? Most users won't have downloaded these apps before.
Well, the idea is that because we team up with local service providers, so we essentially create like the hotspot, and I mean the idea hopefully is that it will be able to be downloaded. I mean certain programs you have to. It depends on the program really, but you can download certain programs with through the Wi-Fi network, and assumedly if the network was sufficient enough to do that, you could potentially do that at the event. Another way to get the name out there beforehand, if that's the problem, if you're at the event, is to advertise it through maybe tickets or maybe or maybe the online website, for example, Coachella, that you buy your tickets maybe a year and a half in advance or a year in advance. So people really come prepared to those things.
So what's the difference between this service and just setting up a bunch of Wi-Fi hotspots at an event?
Great. Well, the nodes themselves are somewhat expensive, but if you only have an event, let's just say at a certain time, like maybe 3 times a year, I mean, you really don't have an incentive to spend a significant amount of money to have this available. So there really is no one on the market to date that provides this as a service to deploy rapidly, to get in there, and to allow people access to the Wi-Fi. The only other company that I'm aware of that does something exactly the same is in the United Kingdom, and they've been around for maybe 10 years. Does that make sense?
And in congested areas, why is a Wi-Fi network going to be able to handle that congestion so much better than cellular networks?
Well, I don't really have technical background, so I can't speak in that jargon. But I've asked the exact same question to the manufacturer, and it's just a more applicable, I suppose, network in, for example, like the AT&T park where they have it now. Did that answer your question? Okay. Can you restate your question? I don't think I understand it.
Yeah. So in congested areas, a cellular network clearly sort of drops out.
Clearly, yeah.
But a Wi-Fi network also, I mean, it has a fairly limited radius, and you start putting a lot of people on that, and it also experiences congestion fairly quickly. So why is it that a Wi-Fi based solution is going to work so much better than a cellular solution?
Well, the nature of the technology itself, and I'm told this, again, I don't have a technology background, but the more nodes that you have, the more efficient the system is. And so it broadens it in such a way so as to facilitate that type of congestion on the Wi-Fi networks. And again, the reference point that I've come back to again and again is the AT&T park, and that 4 nodes can potentially service that based on what the manufacturers communicated to us.
4 nodes at AT&T park? Do you think it's...
Now that, I mean, it's for a different service. I mean, that was for security services, so not actually the individuals. But, I mean, not every single individual is going to be making phone calls at the same time, but we want to give them the option to do that.
We have time for one last question. Very good. Thanks for